Alright, so first things first, this is a game that I really know very little about, despite having played it for 2 hours. If you have got any experience of the popular Dynasty Warrior games, or any Dragon Quest RPG, you're already off to a much better start than I was when I sat down to play Dragon Quest Heroes 2. Of course, I'm a dab hand at spending far too long creating my character, and even though you can't customise the brother and sister pair at the heart of this game, you do get to rename Lazarul and Teresa. And with much despairing teeth gnashing from the PR looking on behind me, I settled upon a girl named Pritt and a boy named Stick. Then I turned on Japanese audio just because I'm one of those kinds of people. A brief tutorial where Pritt and Stick engage in some friendly sparring while their soup simmers on the stove. They are catching up and Reverie is disturbed by this huge explosion at the city gates. The city is suddenly under attack after years and years of peace between the 7 realms of this world. These 2 characters aren't yet Knights of Harbour, but now that they are all warmed up, they dash towards the unfolding chaos to help out the city guards as best they can. There's no mention of warriors or Musou in the title, but this is very much Omega Force's bread and butter, throwing tons and tons of enemies your way, giving you the cathartic release of carving your way through them with a variety of weapons and some huge screen-clearing attacks. Dishing out damage, taking hits and picking up certain things on the battlefield all add to your character's tension, which is otherwise known as Musou. Fill up the tension meter and you can temporarily turn invincible with the ability to spam as many of the magic attacks as you possibly can in the time before the meter runs out, and then just tap the circle button as you're about to run out in order to unleash the finishing blow. Truth be told, I actually kind of suck at this game, and I didn't realise it until just now. I'm not someone that's overly familiar with the Musou niche that Omega Force have carved out for themselves, and so I just charge in there with gleeful abandon, hammering away at the simplistic attack combos, and occasionally breaking out one of the big spells when the MP has recharged. It's not exactly tricky to pick up and play, especially after years of reading and editing our steady stream of reviews of their games, but I'm actually always kind of getting caught out. What I wasn't expecting is for the game to require too much concentration. Certainly the opening encounter is fairly trivial, but when the nightclubber shows up with his sweeping attacks that knock you flying, I realise I need to start trying to figure out how to dodge them. Later, going up against burly guys with hooded capes and what are, to all intents and purposes, googly eyes stuck onto the front of their hoods, I'm also getting hit, and the game throws a number of these tougher enemies at you and your party all at once. Luckily, the AI does a half-decent job of keeping them preoccupied, but I'm still taking hits. Then again, I'm kind of distracted by trying to figure out how these hulking big guys can manage to hide in the bushes, often with 2 or 3 of them in the same bush at the same time, and what they're actually doing to make the bushes rustle so noticeably. But maybe it's best I don't dwell on that for too long. We soon moved on to trying out the cooperative dungeons, and with the game now supporting up to 4-player co-op, you can team up to take on these bespoke multi-stage time labyrinths. They essentially drop you into a relatively nondescript room and then ask you to batter everything that you can see. It's here that I actually got to get a feel for the effects of the levelling system, which I'm led to believe is something that doesn't usually feature in Omega Force games. Having blazed a trail to reach level 3 and be able to actually play the online co-op, there's an awful lot of enemies here to churn through, and it takes quite a time to do so. It's made tougher still when the Moorkeeper pops up and opens up a portal and keeps enemies flooding into the area, so you need to try and take those out. And some of the enemies that they do summon can be the bigger golems or whatever, and those just soak up tons and tons of damage. My inability to actually get to grips with just dodging out the way kind of bites me in the bum again, because now it's half of my health that is being wiped out instead of just like 3 or 4 points at a time. Thankfully, I can just chill out for 30 seconds when I get knocked down and cheer my buddy on, or they might have a Leaf of the World tree which lets you revive someone, and they could get me back up on my feet for about 5 seconds before I get knocked down again. You do also have a little help in being able to pick up coins from fallen enemies and summon them back to fight alongside you. They can either fight and serve as a bit of a distraction, or they can pull off a powerful one-time attack, or depending on the coin this is, you can turn into that kind of enemy. If you've ever wanted to be a slime, well, now is your chance, and it can give you a little break from having to worry about any kind of damage that you're taking. But once that form's health drops down to 0, poof, you're turned back into your main character and have to get back to hammering away with your axe or sword or twin blades or whatever it is you've got equipped. First time around, all of this was a bit of a slog, but we did eventually manage to get to the armoured quadruped dungeon masters in a third area and then get promptly wiped out. Disappointingly, I think it forced us right back to the very beginning of the labyrinth, but now this was a bit easier because our characters were quite a bit higher level. I think I was level 6 when I started this again, and that means that you can get through these areas quite a bit quicker. But then we still die to the dungeon masters, but so maybe it'll be quite a bit easier if there's 4 of you instead of 2, or more accurately if there's 3 people who are there to revive me instead of 1. Aside from having this new story to follow in the open world environment, it's the time labyrinths that feel like the big new feature here. But through it all, Dragon Quest Heroes does actually do a pretty good job of taking elements from the mainline RPG and using those to help it stand out from the crowd of other Musou games. There's more of this action RPG underneath it all, you've got character skills opening up as you play. It's a game that has you venturing out into the open world between towns, and there's the bright, colourful and distinctive graphics, as well as the balmy characters, many of whom have these cheesy regional accents even when they're being subtitled. To my untrained eye, it's got the body of an Omega Force Musou game, but the heart of Dragon Quest. And honestly, if they're making a second one, they must have got something right with the first one to gain the fans enough to warrant it. So I know I've been pretty clueless here, but I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't worry, I'll shut up in a second and leave you with some plain blank gameplay without my voice over the top of it. But do like and subscribe, or head over to the6axis.com for more of this video game stuff that I hear is so popular these days. And so until next time, goodbye!
しなさい。ギガスラッシュ